Welcome to Central News, I'm Hilary Entwistle. In today's news, more people die by their own hand in New Zealand than on our roads, and the rural community have an alarming rate of suicide. There are 50% more suicides in the rural sector than urban, which works out to be one farmer a fortnight that takes their life. Neil Bateup from Waikato Hauraki Coromandel Rural Support Trust says with the current dry conditions, this can be very stressful times for farmers, and it is important to seek support.
Well, the farming community has about a 50% higher suicide rate than the general population. There are about 25 farmers or one every 2 weeks who takes their own life. It's it's quite worrying. It's mainly males. And it's something that we need to actually address.
The search is now on for heroes of the Waipa District through the Trustpower Community Awards. The awards, which are run in partnership with the Waipa District Council, are open to all voluntary groups and organisations working to make Waipa a better place to live. Teresa Partridge from Trustpower says it is easy to nominate a group, and it's nice to let volunteers know they appreciate it.
So there's heaps of voluntary groups out there that need to be recognised, from the local Plunket groups to the PTA to different sport groups, and they all deserve to be recognised and thanked for all the awesome community work that they do. And so now it's the community's chance to give back and to say thank you, to continue their work.
Now for our region's weather for Tuesday. Hamilton, your Tuesday will be fine with the winds turning to a southeasterly in the morning. Your expected high is 24 and an overnight low of 9. Tauranga, your Tuesday will be fine too, with your wind turning to a southeasterly in the morning as well. Your expected high is 24 and an overnight low of 14. Just ahead, we meet some lovely greyhounds. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Last week was Greyhounds' Pets Appeal Week, and so I caught up with some owners and their lovely greyhounds to see what the deal is. So what do you get in a package when you adopt a pet from Greyhound as pets?
Well, firstly you get a greyhound that's up to scratch on all its vaccinations, health checks, teeth are 100% looked after, so they come to you, really roadworthy. They are microchipped and they're spayed or neutered, whichever the case may be. But the really important thing is you get a very good information pack on everything to do with looking after greyhounds and their habits, and there's help there from Greyhounds as Pets for if you have any problems or problems in training them or feeding, if they won't eat certain things. So there's somebody there sort of really behind you walking those first steps, which is great.
What is Greyhounds as Pets?
It's a charity that began because it actually began in England and went to Australia and is now followed up in New Zealand. And it was to take up the slack of greyhounds that finish racing and don't have anywhere to go. Part of the problem with greyhounds is the bad press. Everyone thinks they rip small fluffy things to pieces, and I've got a small fluffy dog and my 2 greyhounds haven't ripped her to pieces ever, so that's a bit of a myth. And that they're hard to exercise because of their speed, but I can't keep up with their speed, nobody can. You just take them somewhere they can run and they will run. They'll do their own exercising and then come back to you and say, "Oh, I'm so tired, that's enough, go home." Yeah.
Do they eat a lot because they're burning so much more energy than other dogs?
Do they eat a lot? Not an overly lot, but yeah, that's a lot. I've got 2 whippets at home, which are the smaller sort of greyhounds, and my greyhound eats by himself, but those 2 eat together. But yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the actual breed of greyhounds?
Yes, greyhounds are one of the oldest breeds of dog. You actually find them in the Egyptian pyramids and some of the paintings there. They've been bred specifically for hunting small game. They're a sight hound, so they love to chase rabbits and things like that, which is why they're used in the greyhound racing industry, because they've got those natural attributes. They're a very fast dog. They're the second fastest land animal, second only to the cheetah. So they're really built for speed. but they're also a very sociable and very easygoing dog, which makes them ideal for people to have as pets.
So what does happen to ex-racing dogs if they don't find a home?
Yeah, well, that's why greyhounds as pets is really so important, because there's a lot of good work that actually does take place within the greyhound industry with the trainers trying to find homes for dogs. But unfortunately, dogs that homes aren't found for, some of them do actually end up getting put down. So greyhounds as pets has been formed to actually try and sort of assist with finding homes for greyhounds, and to date we've done about 950 dogs since GAP was formed in 2006.
What kind of events does Greyhound as Pets hold?
Well, we have a lot of events which are really based around the owners of the dogs and helping them with their greyhounds with any settling in issues, hints and tips. So we have a regular monthly walk that greyhound owners can come along to, and it varies in different areas as to where it's held. We try and rotate them around. We also go to shows and things like the Women's Expo, to Animates. We go along to the Pink Cancer Walk as well, so we try and take part in those community events. But yeah, generally anything and everywhere where people are present.
Are greyhounds high maintenance dogs?
No, that was one of the things that surprised me, because I always thought I'd have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to actually go and walk the greyhound, and I thought, I'm not sure greyhound's for me. But then I found out that greyhounds are very low maintenance. 2 20-minute walks a day is sufficient for them. They are sprinters, not endurance athletes. They sleep a lot. 18 hours a day is not uncommon for them to actually sleep. They don't really shed a lot compared to other breeds of dogs, and you don't get that same sort of doggy smell that you have with other dogs. So they're very low maintenance. Don't need a lot of grooming because of their short coat. So as a low maintenance dog, they're really ideal for different people's lifestyles. They adapt so well.
So can you tell us a little bit about the street appeal that you guys are going to have?
Yeah, we'll try and do a street appeal each year, and primarily we've been doing that down in Wellington and also a little bit in other areas, like Rotorua. You'll see 2 of our great sort of greyhound owners will be on the street in Rotorua, and it's designed to actually collect money so that we can put that towards the rehoming of dogs, because for every dog that we actually do rehome and actually take into the program, there's quite a cost with that. So every dollar that we can actually get is great. We do get funding through the greyhound industry. They give us money. We've also got a couple of good sponsors in the likes of Bayer with vaccinations for dogs, and also nutrients with feeding. But unfortunately, we still need a lot more funds to actually keep the dogs moving through the program.
Can you tell us a little bit about your lovely dog, Riley?
Well, Riley, he's been with me now for 18 months. His racing name was Elite Impact, and originally came from Australia. So he actually won a race in Australia, placed a few times here in New Zealand, but he actually had a minor injury, so he was retired from the racing scene.
Do you think he's a little bit upset that he's retired, or do you think he quite likes the retired lifestyle?
I think he's like probably most retired athletes. He's probably looks at those young athletes and thinks, I'd like to be out there and I could teach them a thing or two, but I think he's pretty happy on his couch.
Visit greyhoundsaspets.org.nz to find out how to adopt. Coming up next, we look at fire safety in the home. Welcome back. It has been a dry summer, which has led to an increase in shrub fires nationally. But tonight we look at fire safety in the home.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter whether we look at urban or rural environments. The statistics show that the majority of house fires are actually caused by unattended cooking, and in a lot of cases the unattended cooking's exaggerated by the fact that people have consumed alcohol. So alcohol actually plays a large part in fatal fires in houses, and as well as just the cause of fires in domestic environment. But it's certainly unattended cooking is recognised as the major cause of fires in homes in New Zealand.
Because that's completely preventable, really, isn't it?
It is, but we're human beings at the end of the day, and there's things that distract us when we're in the home, and especially if we've consumed alcohol, you know, that's the danger of falling asleep once we've come home and put something on the stove. And if we're busy trying to get dinner and looking after children and large families and environments, it's very easy for people to become distracted. So hence the reason we really encourage people to have smoke alarms in their homes, and obviously, you know, the New Zealand Fire Service reinforces it with their national advertising campaigns. That, you know, you've got to keep looking while you're cooking, and that's basically the same message whether you're in an urban area or a rural fire area.
Are there electrical faults quite actually that big a cause?
There are some, but they don't actually show up as a large percentage. The majority of fires are actually those cooking fires, and then we get a variety across the areas of electric blankets do cause some fires. One of the other common ones is disposal of materials from fires after you've had an open fire. That's still quite a common cause, so that's why the fire service and we as a rural fire authority encourage people to make sure that you know, as winter comes on, make sure you clean the flues in your chimneys and fireplaces, and also if you're disposing of hot ashes, they need to go into a metal container for a few days before they're disposed of into other waste.
Do we need to be putting water on them, or is just putting it in?
If you're putting them in a metal container, it's probably not a bad idea just to dampen them down, but you certainly need to leave them 3 or 4 days before you dispose of them.
So how can we get the message across of that important message? You've got to be installing smoke alarms.
I think one of the realities is you know, the best time to promote things is when a disaster happens, and that's usually the best time to bring the message to the public's attention. But through the New Zealand Fire Service commitment with their national advertising program, we piggyback on the back of that to really promote the use of smoke alarms and regularly checking smoke alarms. And there's, you know, New Zealand Fire Service has a good website in terms of smoke alarm installation. Manufacturers put good details on their packaging as to where and how to install smoke alarms.
Where's the best place to install a smoke alarm? Obviously not in the kitchen.
There's a variety of smoke alarms available on the market now, and the New Zealand Fire Service recommend photoelectric smoke alarms. They were expensive, but now are reasonably cost effective to purchase and install. They're less susceptible to actuation by cooking fumes and that, but depending on your budget, the minimum is you should have smoke alarms in your sleeping areas and certainly in any hallways. And if you're building new or doing major building renovations, you're actually required under the building codes to install smoke alarms to the building code standards. So you need to check with your local council if you're doing building work or doing renovations as to where those smoke alarms should be installed. And that information is also available online through the Building Industry Authority.
And yeah, I guess the job doesn't just stop at actually installing our alarms. We need to be checking them regularly.
Yeah, they need to be maintained. So weekly when you're vacuuming and that's a good idea just to vacuum your smoke alarms to get any dust out. They should be tested monthly, and there's a variety of different alarms on the market. Some can be tested by shining a torchlight at them. Others, the end of a broomstick will do the job if they're on the ceiling and that. And obviously with daylight saving, you have the opportunity, the fire service promote it with change to the clock to check your smoke alarm, change your battery. And fortunately today there is available on the market permanently wired smoke alarms and smoke detector systems for homes that have battery backup, and you can also buy off-the-shelf 10-year battery life smoke alarms, and we recommend those to people. Choose photoelectric, choose 10-year battery, and you're less likely to experience the beeping at 3 o'clock in the morning that says the battery's flat.
So what do we do if a fire does break out?
Basic rules is always raise the alarm of fire by shouting fire, making sure everybody in the house knows there's a fire, get everybody outside, have a place of assembly. In urban areas it's usually the letterbox. That may not be practical in the rural, but you need to identify an area that's away from the building on fire where everybody can gather, be accounted for. Children and others in the house, everybody should be taught an escape plan, and they should practice that, and they should be able to get there on their own without having to be assisted. So it's really important that we have escape plans for our homes, And obviously once you're outside, stay outside. Going back into a burning building on fire is extremely dangerous, even for an able-bodied person. The oxygen levels are going down because of the fire combustion. The heat is extremely high inside a building, so get everybody out, stay out, and then call the fire brigade. And it's a really good idea to make sure children, everybody in the house, knows the street address, understands that when they make a 111 call, they'll talk to an operator who will then put them onto either fire, police or ambulance. And knowing your address, knowing your rural delivery number is all helpful. And likewise, when you're driving a car, it's keeping an eye on where you are on the highway. What was the last street you went past? It just helps the operators in the control rooms identify your location.
That is an important message there to make sure your smoke alarms are working. Just ahead, we meet the new assistant coach for the Steamers. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. The Bay of Plenty Steamers have appointed a new assistant coach, Rodney Gibbs. I caught up with him and coach Kevin Schuler to find out how he is settling in and what the 2013 season is expected to bring.
Well, it's pretty important that we get a lot of time with the players that we've got here locally, so we're really keen to work hard with them through the club season and just get a bigger base of local players that are ready for ITM Cup. So when our big boys come back, we're up and running. We're still real keen to stay very active in the community. We're probably one of the most the busiest unions, and we're really proud that we're doing that. And the third thing I think is we really just want to have a really strong focus on our attack and be able to score tries, offload, line breaks, and that'll be a big part of our game plan.
So why was Rodney Gibb picked for the assistant coach role?
He's good looking. It's the main thing. No, I mean Rodney's, was down to Rodney and Johnny Walters last year, and Rodney brings a huge wealth of experience locally. He knows the scene, he's connected, and so that's great for the region. And Rodney's he's a first five, and he's got a strong tactical understanding of the game too. So that's really going to help us with our attack and our putting our game together.
Who are some of the players that we should be looking out for this season?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of young fellas been coming through and doing some great stuff over with the Chiefs. So Mike Kying has been with us a couple of seasons. He's making great strides there. Nathan Harris, there's a bit of part-time work over there with him. He's a hooker. I'm sure he'll have great season for us. Young Josh Hall at halfback. Hope to see big things from him. We've got Chris Noakes and Phil Burley back on track with us this year too, and they'll bring a huge amount of experience, as will Lats, local favourite. And we've got a young junior Tofavau, New Zealand under-20s winger last year, and he's a bit of an excitement machine, so we're keen to see him on the paddock.
The Bay of Plenty is so big. Is it hard to get all the players together for trainings?
Yeah, it is a challenge. We're based here, and we're sort of centred around Bay Park. We've got our training gym across the way, and the training fields are here. So a core of it, a big bunch of our guys that come into the region or local are in the Western Bay, but it's really important that we service and we're active in those other areas. So we've got sort of satellite hubs in the other areas in Rotorua, Whakatane, and there's a couple of boys out at Potiki we're having a look at as well. So we make sure we get out and about there. And, when the time's right, we'll try and bring them in, and so we can, our intensity ramps up, we'll get them all based here and get into it.
Rodney, how are you finding your new role so far?
Oh, it's been great. Been a good introduction to the union, and I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, any new job, there's a few transitions to be made, and coming from building, it's taken a little while to find my feet, but starting to get there now, and looking forward to what's ahead.
And what do you think some of the challenges will be in your new job?
I think for me, I think it's two-pronged a little bit. One is obviously the Steamers side of it, and trying to get that to gel, giving my input and trying to incorporate that with the team philosophies and make sure that we're moving forward. The other side of it, I think, is the challenges to create an environment really that everyone in the Bay wants to be a part of, and so that the players can perform to their best, so that everyone wants to be a part of that.
And you have had quite an extensive career in rugby in the Bay of Plenty. Can you tell us about that?
Mainly playing was through club rugby here, through age group rugby to the Steamers, and then coaching was with Te Puke Sports, coaching the senior team, Bay Colts through development team, and now to here, which has been good, and I think that's great for the union, shows a pathway for people who want to get here.
Now, your job is not just about the current Steamers, you're actually the resource coach as well. What does that role involve?
It's really being part of the high performance unit here, where we try and, while we are developing and implementing some structures and putting them in place to encourage young guys and producing pathways for them to come right through to the Steamers. Along with that, hopefully along the way we can promote them into like Chiefs age grade teams and New Zealand system. So that's primarily what we're trying to achieve with that.
Kevin, who do you think is your biggest threat this season?
I mean, all the teams in the ITM Cup's a really tough competition, and I mean it's a little bit better this year in terms of there's not only one midweek game, so that real compact game after game after game is a little bit better, but you've really got to hit the ground running, and every team for us is going to be a real threat. So, you know, we'd really look at just every game. We want to put our best foot out there and have a great game of rugby. The challenges for us will be internal. Get our local boys up to speed and get them confident and fit and really keen to play. If we get that right, we're going to have a great season.
And what are the boys doing for their off-season training?
Yeah, well, we had a sort of gave them a bit of a time off. They have to. November was pretty quiet for them. We had a sevens program with a bunch of boys were involved in, so the odd contracted player, but also other young up-and-coming fast talent. You may have seen Mason Walker from Rotorua Boys running around at the New Zealand Sevens, did well. So that was part of a program sort of through December and January, and we've also had a few of our contracted and quite a good size academy group this year, which has been training primarily strength and conditioning, fitness and weights, which has been going through since middle of December. And we are just about to have a couple of WASP games, which again for our younger players, just to give them a bit of a taste early in the season before club kicks off. So no, it's been pretty busy.
And with MPC, is it hard for players to find that balance between full-time jobs and their dedication to the Steamers?
Well, we're dealing with young players generally that are pre-aspirational. They want to get there, and that's part of the new challenge. ITM Cup only goes for that 3 or 4 months, and you know the salaries and the contracts that we have for them aren't really full-time jobs in a lot of cases. So these young people need to learn how to balance a working career with their aspirational rugby, and if they do well in that and perform on the pitch, then they'll get their opportunities to play the full-time, the big game at Super Rugby. So yeah, that's a part of the challenge, but you know, we think it's a key part of same for everyone. So
visit boprugby.co.nz. That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have news including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I will be back tomorrow night with more guests from in and around the regions. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.